And good Saturday morning, and welcome to the Saturday Morning Huddle. Kenny Rhoda along with Billy Beebe getting you ready to go through what transpired last night, Friday night, week 11 overall, week 1 of the high school football playoffs in Ohio. And Billy Beebe, Stark County, well represented last night, and a lot of teams moving on to the second round. We had some great games last night.
Absolutely, we did. We had high hopes for our teams. I know we talked about it earlier in the week, you and I, Kenny, and I don't think they disappointed. A lot of guys moving on, big plays, big stats, great storylines in these round one playoff wins. You know, a lot of teams make it, but we saw the competition rises a little bit, even in round one.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a great game last night. Fairless hosting Orville. It was a rematch from earlier in the season, week 5, when Fairless hosted Orville and crushed them 42-14. And we thought going into yesterday's game that it was going to be a lot closer. And it was, to the point where Fairless was trailing at halftime 22-12. They had to rally. We'll find out what Ajay Sarbaugh told his team at halftime. Whatever it was, he needs to bottle it up and sell it on Amazon.com or on eBay or something like that, because whatever he told his kids, they responded 35-0. They outscored Orville, opened up a can of you-know-what last night in the second half, and they move on and win 47-12. Brody Pumneo's going to join Ajay Sarbaugh a little bit later on. How about Brody Pumneo's night? Have a night, kid. He throws a touchdown pass on a halfback option pass. He catches 2 touchdown passes, and he had a big interception in the second half when they were steamrolling Orville, and he ends up being our WHBC Player of the Week, round 1 of the playoffs. 5 catches, 75 yards in those 2 scores. He had the 23-yard touchdown pass, the interception on defense, and he's just an all-around player. And at the smaller schools, right, D5, you got to play both ways. And these kids love it, man. They love going both ways, and they can impact the game more that way. And they are loaded with athletes at Fairless. And Ajay Sarbaugh, I got to tell you, man, this guy, as far as play calling, he's fun to watch with his play calling. They have so many, tricks that they can roll out. Trick or treat, Halloween weekend. He rolled one out on that halfback option pass. And congratulations to Ajay Sarbaugh, 31st career win at Fairless, and that ties the all-time school record. Most wins in a career at Fairless, 31 wins. And you know what? He's doing a heck of a job building that program, and he's such a great guy, too. You love it when good things happen to good people, and I believe he's tied with Ron Rankin and Don Wilson right now. So one more win, and he will own the school record for career victories at Fairless. So happy for Fairless that they got the win. And how about this? Another big moment for them last night, Billy Beebe. Their first ever home playoff victory in school history. Think about that. Let that marinate a little bit, right? We talk about McKinley all the time. We talk about Massillon and all the great schools in Stark County. And Fairless, like I said, he's trying to build a winning culture there. AJ and the Falcons, they get their first ever playoff victory at home. So congratulations to the Falcons. And we're going to talk with him at about 10:15 coming up here in a little bit. How about your game last night?
Yeah, so Lake, a big advantage there. Just get one of our guests here set, Kenny. But one of those situations where they don't know Dublin Scioto. It's a tough situation where they've kind of felt like, hey, this might be a Federal League team, but we haven't seen them before. So, right. They get them. Hot start for Lake. They go at 14-0. They miss an extra point, so 13-0, excuse me. We had some technical difficulties, so I was figuring things out. I come back. It's 13-7. They're headed into halftime, and Scioto's about driving. We'll talk with Coach DeGeorge about a defensive stop they end up getting. But, it was close really for 3 quarters. I say Lake played a great first quarter and a fourth quarter, and that's what got them the win. That in between is what had that one close. So they end up pulling it off late, 33-17. Again, you saw 2 different teams, and I'm interested to talk to Coach DeGeorge about that. First quarter and fourth quarter, you saw the Lake of 9-1 and the Lake that won the Federal League and all that. Second and third quarter, I don't know what that was. And we'll have to ask Coach DeGeorge what happened there, what they need to fix. And again, you talk about halftime speeches. I think every coach we talked to today, I think we're going to ask them, what did you say at halftime? Because everybody was in a different situation. And I know our next guest was definitely having to craft something good for his halftime speech.
Yeah, no question about it. We'll get to all the scores from last night here in a little bit. You can see them scrolling across the bottom, the results from last night. But let's bring in our first guest, or I should say guests, here on the Saturday morning huddle from the Jackson Polar Bears. First-year head coach Jay Rohr, outstanding senior running back Jason Davide. First of all, congratulations to both you gentlemen. And Coach Rohr, let's start with you. A tough loss the previous week. And I'm always curious to see how a team who loses in week 10 and still makes the playoffs, how they respond in week 11. And your kids responded very well, jumping out to an early 21-7 lead. So take me through the week of practice, how your kids got over the tough loss to Hoover and performed early on.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the message to the team, and it still is, all the records are thrown out the window when you get to week 11. You want to do well throughout the course of the season to give yourself a chance to get to the postseason. You certainly want to win your league if you're in a league. But I think there's truth to that. And I use the analogy with like March Madness. Anybody can beat anybody at any given time. And that's what the postseason's about. It's 0-0 records. And, our kids, they're battle tested. They don't, like you said, they go from one week to the next week. They grind it out. They practice hard. They take coaching, and ultimately, they want to win, and they do. They fight, and again, we're blessed that we came out with a victory last night.
Coach, you were one of the Federal League teams not playing a opponent. What was that like?
Again, we look at it and we were able to get some film. You have to share the film with one another, but we just look at it. It doesn't matter. It's who's next. And that's been kind of our thing. It's the next opponent. We don't ever look ahead. We don't look behind. We just focus on the opponent that's at stake. And like I said, our kids do a great job buying into the game plan. That they take the coaching throughout the course of a week. And again, we're blessed to come up with a victory last night. They were a good opponent.
Jason, I want to pick your brain about the loss to Hoover and bouncing back. And you're a senior, so this could have been your last game. So the motivation of that, how much does that factor in, as well as wanting to get that bad taste of Hoover out of your mouth?
Yeah, all the seniors just wanted to come back with the win at home because it was the last time we're ever going to play here. So we just wanted to give it our best and just see what we could do.
And what was the atmosphere like for the playoff game, Jason? What we always hear about how it's different, right? The atmosphere, the speed of the game, everything when the playoffs roll around. How big of a difference was it from regular season to postseason?
Yeah, well, the energy was built a lot more during practice. We had really good week of practice, and it kind of led us to play good in the game.
Jason, the temperature dropped a little bit, obviously, over the last couple of weeks. Does that help you as a running back?
Yeah, I go cut off. I've worn a cut off every game since sophomore year, so I'm not changing it.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And 31 rushes last night, $149 and 3 TDs. We always hear announcers, whether it's the collegiate level, the NFL, or even high school, say that, man, he seems to get stronger as the game goes on, the more carries he gets. And you see, the guys doing this, feed me, feed me, feed me. Are you the same way as a running back with what the announcers are normally saying?
I mean, I just run. I mean, that's really all I can do. Whatever play's called, I just try to do my best, whether it's blocking or running. And my lineman did a good job blocking towards the end of the game.
Coach, was there an effort to make sure he was the feature, offensive player in this game going up against the Berea Mid-Park squad?
Yeah, I mean, it does. It starts with our offensive coaching staff. I mean, they do a tremendous job, putting a lot of time, as our entire staff, and just trying to devise a game plan. I think any coach would say, you know, going into each game, we got to get the ball in our playmakers' hands. And Jason Davide is one of those playmakers that we got to find a way to get him the ball. He said it too. Our offensive line do a tremendous job, and they take a lot of pride in protecting, being able to run the football and obviously protecting our quarterback. So, yeah. And the other thing is, Jason, we knew going into the season, which is why we switched him to a one-way player on the offensive side, just because of how many times he's going to have to tote the rock. So, again, he's responded, and our offensive staff, again, has done a tremendous job making sure that we find a way to get these guys the ball.
Coach, we talked about it on the show. You had some decisions to make at quarterback as the season was kind of ending, going into playoffs. Was that difficult?
Oh, it's very difficult. And like I said, really week in, week out, when I get asked these questions, I preach character to the entire team week in and week out. And I mean it wholeheartedly. These guys have a love and a passion for the game, but, I also, as the head coach, have to take some responsibility of what these guys are going to do in the future and when it's all said and done. And, Ethan Lesko starting out the season, Joe Lattarulo, and now Lucas Eckerman. These are three tremendous kids that I truly believe, buy into the concept, we, not me. They're team players. They're going to give everything they can to help the team win. In fact, even Joe Lattarulo, he started at safety for us last night. And we're always going to try to look to get guys like that with great character that bleed we, not me, and buy into the team concept. We're going to do our best to get those guys on the football field. And I couldn't be more proud of all three of those guys.
Coach, you were up 21-7. They come back, take the lead. So it comes down to, again, familiar situation, right? You need a fourth quarter score to either tie or win the game. What was the thought process going through that final drive? And you got a freshman at quarterback there trying to lead you to a playoff victory down late in the game.
Well, again, anybody that stepped in that takes the helmet quarterback for us, I've always told them that I have nothing but confidence in those guys, and I really mean that. I got asked whether it was last week or recently, what do the other players think of a freshman playing quarterback? And you ask a great question. These guys believe in him as well. They give him the confidence. They tell him that they're going to protect him. So we have the confidence in Lucas that he's gonna play at a high level. And like I said, our offense has done a great job. It's hand the ball off to Jason, and then if we can get the play action pass or whatever it might be called, we have the utmost confidence that those guys are going to execute. And we were able to do that last night to get that final score. And then again, our defensive staff did a tremendous job. They scored 24 points in the first half, and we held them scoreless the entire second half. And there's multiple times that they had short fields that they probably could have, punched it in. But we came up with 2 or 3 fourth down stops inside the 30-yard line. So I give those guys a lot of credit too, to be able to bounce back there after giving up 24 points in the first half to go scoreless in the second.
Hey, real quick, Billy, I'm going to ask Jason about this. Jason, as a senior with a freshman in the huddle, how are you guys trying to keep him calm and give him the confidence as you go through the game?
I mean, he's got confidence. He's done a good job this year, and I just tell him to breathe, just live in the moment, and just take nothing for granted. And he's done a good job too of keeping calm and relaxed the whole time.
34-yard touchdown pass to Kyle Benson, the game winner. You guys move on. Last question for both you guys, Coach. Hey, you're still playing, which is great. That means you're on to week 12, but you're going up against the defending Division I state champs from last year, St. Ed's. Jay, we'll start with you, and then Jason, just your thoughts on facing the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Lombardo and his staff, I know Tom, and, and obviously he's a tremendous coach. Their staff is a tremendous staff, and certainly their team and what they do year in and year out speaks volume to them. And, I can't sit here and just say we're happy to be where we're at. It's me. And I don't mind to say it out loud. It's us trying to find out where our program and how we can take it to the next level, that next direction. And I know it's more of a David versus Goliath matchup, but in order to get to where those guys are at, you got to go through the big dogs, and we have to take that next step in that challenge, and we have to accept it no matter what happens. Our kids, we're going to coach our butts off. We're going to try to come up with the best game plan that we can, and we'll see what happens next week.
For us in the media, we might call it a Davide versus Goliath matchup. If you get a little play on words there. So are you ready for however many times you're going to have to carry the ball, Jason?
Yeah, I'm just going to listen to my coaches and do whatever they tell me and just try and follow my linemen.
How great is that, Coach, to have a kid like that? He's a coach's dream, isn't he?
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. And that's just not, I give a lot of credit to Jason, but that's a great point. That's how really our entire team is. It doesn't matter whatever we ask them to do at any position, or whether we have to move guys to different positions. And I think that goes again, that people don't recognize. We've had to shuffle the deck in quite a few positions, but those guys just do what they're coached to do, and they try to do it to the best of their abilities, and that's where we're so blessed.
Coach, congratulations on the 28-24 win over Berea Mid-Park. Jason, same to you as a senior. We hope you keep playing for, 6 to get to the state. So for 5 more weeks is the goal there. So best of luck against the Eagles, guys, and thanks for joining us on the Saturday Morning Huddle.
Hey, thanks for having us. Appreciate you guys.
How about that? A good win for them as they were ahead. Then they fell behind. They had to come back, and they get the victory. Where did I hear that or see that? Oh, yeah, the game we did last night on radio, the Pro Football Hall of Fame Game of the Week last night. Fairless against Orville, Pac-7 rematch earlier this season. Fairless crushed Orville 42-14. So what was going to happen in the rematch? We thought it would be closer since Orville got a taste of what Fairless is all about this year, and it was. And it was 22-12 at halftime. And I'll ask Ajay Sarbaugh this as we bring he and Brody Pumnio in on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Coach, congratulations on the win, but could you have played any worse in that first half against Orville last night?
I don't think so. We just watched the film. We definitely weren't our best. And as bad as it was, we told our kids, I think people forgot we were up 12-7. Right. I mean, they scored first, then we actually, we get a stop and we score and we're up 12-7, but we did not play well the first half. 3 turnovers, penalties. We didn't block very well up front, but credit to these guys sticking to it, keeping their nose to the grindstone, and great second half, without a doubt.
Coach, you had kids trying to, make interceptions, mistiming the ball on defense that led to touchdowns. You mentioned the turnovers, the penalties and everything. So you're down 22-12 at halftime. I made the comment on the air last night. They're lucky to only be down 22-12. And that's a tribute to you guys for playing a poor half and only being down 10. So you're in the locker room at halftime. What did you say to Brody and Carson and the entire team? Because they responded. You guys outscored Orville 35-0 in the second half.
We just went over our 5 goals that our kids chose at the beginning of the week. We tried to give them ownership. It was focus, start fast, win the turnover battle, win the special teams battle, win the penalties battle. And I told them we're 0 for 5 right now. We got to clean this up. We need to go 5 for 5 in the second half. And give these guys credit. We knew we got the ball to start second half, and if you score there, it's a 1-possession game. Anything can happen, but I think those past playoff games that we've been in with Poland and St. Joe's and playing Canton South and Northwest, our senior leadership and the ownership by the junior and seniors took over, and there wasn't any panic at halftime. Like, hey, we're in a bad spot, but we can dig ourselves out of this. It starts with 1 score, and then if it's 1 possession, anything can happen. So everybody was really calm at halftime. We knew we could play a lot better, and we did.
Yeah, the kid sitting next to you really contributed in so many ways to that second half. Brody Pumnio. And Brody, I'm going to start. And you were our player of the game and player of the week for doing everything that you did last night. The pick on defense, 5 catches, 2 scores, the touchdown pass, and something that we didn't put up here. And I want to ask you about it because it was the first play of the third quarter when Carson Colucci takes the snap and takes it 82 yards for a touchdown, and it really changed the momentum of the game. And you had a big block on the outside on that one to help spring your quarterback. So we'll get to the touchdowns and all of that, but how proud are you of that portion of your game as well?
Led your touchdown, so pretty proud of it. I always try to focus on trying to do as much as I can, no matter the play, no matter what's supposed to happen. So if it's my job to block, I'm going to try and block as well as I can.
Yeah, and Coach, you got called for some penalties from your receivers, right or wrong from that officiating crew last night. We'll leave that, to the masses to judge. But how important is it in the offense that you run that your receivers not only catch the ball and, like Brody, throw the ball, but they block as well?
It's huge. I mean, you've covered us a couple times now, Kenny, but Peter Kelly's got over 800 yards rushing. Carson's at 500. We run jet with Brody. And those guys are selfless. And we get into a lot of formations where you saw last night, Luke and Brody and Andy Gill are in 3-point stances trying to get different looks. So we ask them to be a complete football player. They're not just catching passes. And I think Coach Butcher does a really good job pushing these guys to block. It's important in practice during the week. And you've seen we had big runs and big plays, not just because of the line, but because these receivers take that personally, that they want to block and do their 111th every play, not just on pass plays.
Good, Billy. I know you got something you want to throw at Coach.
Yeah, Coach, I know we talked with different players about it, but that temperature drops, it gets colder. I mean, what's the feeling as you guys kind of come out?
I mean, it was pretty exciting last night. We had a whiteout, and we tried to get Fairless, Ohio going. We passed out towels. Kenny got a towel. I think everyone in the media did, but they were swinging them. You can ask Brody, but it was a pretty cool environment last night. It didn't feel cold on the field. I mean, I was dressed warm, but didn't feel too cold.
How about for you, Brody?
Nope, the adrenaline kicked in and didn't really feel the weather too much.
Brody, if you can, lean a little closer to the computer so we can hear you. I want to find out from you, what do you enjoy more? Throwing a touchdown pass, catching a touchdown pass, or making an interception, because you did all three last night in the game?
Oh, I enjoy it all the same. Any way to help the team, it's all a great feeling.
Halftime speech from Coach. Was he as calm as he said he was, or was he a little riled up?
Yeah, he was actually really calm. We were all just in the locker room trying to figure out like what's happening, and he came in and he didn't freak out on us. And the seniors, we kind of took hold of the team and talked about what we had to do the second half.
All right, we're going to have some fun right now with both you guys, so you can both chime in whenever you want on this. We've got highlights from last night's game. The first one we're going to show you guys is the 34-yard touchdown pass to Brody. So, Coach, how about you? You tell me what the play call is here. We'll run it a couple of times, and then you take us through it after Coach is done, Brody, all right?
So we go red slide, 856 pass. So we're going to motion our H-back tight end, and then we pull our guard and tackle. So we want it to look like we're running our 56 counter, and Brody is on what we call a post corner. And then we have Landon Seal in the flat in case they take away Brody. Brody had one-on-one coverage. You can see their safeties over the hash, and Brody sells the post, gets back outside for the corner, and Carson makes a great read, great route, great throw.
What's it like in the huddle for you, Brody, knowing this play's coming and there's a chance you're going to score?
Oh, I love when this play is called. This is one of my favorite routes. And when I seen that they were press man with the safety all the way on the other side of the field, I knew it was going to be a big play.
Yeah, huge play for you guys. You get a touchdown there. That was in the first half. Now we're going to flip the script and go defense with you, Brody, and I'll ask you to go first on this one as you watch your interception on this play. Take us through it.
So we switched more to zone in the second half, and all week we were working on
like the quarterback being able to scramble and locking up on the other wide receivers. And the last second, I seen the quarterback sort of like cock the ball back and getting ready to throw, so I just broke up on the ball in front of the receiver.
Coach, what are you thinking on the sideline here?
I think it was like 3rd and 8, so I was just hoping we get off the field. Honestly, I thought if we got the ball back, it's one. We're down 3 points right now, and you could feel the momentum changing. So I really thought if we got the lead in the second half, we'd be in really good shape. And right here with Brody's pick, we're in 4-down territory. So on the headset, we're just talking, do we want to take a shot right now, or do you just want to pound this thing and get our score?
Yeah, this comes after the Colucci 82-yard touchdown run. And one more time, run that, Billy. We got to give some love to the guys up front, right? Coach putting the pressure on, making this kid run for his life.
Yeah, Joe Sparn, Jackson Stutz, Logan Beresford, they were outstanding last night, putting pressure on their quarterback. He was running around all night long.
Yeah, did a great job, and Brody makes the pick and sets you guys up, and you guys then would cash in. All right, let's run the next highlight, and this is – and what's the play call on this one, Coach? Because I love it anytime you pull some trickeration out of the bag.
Okay, so this is red, stay, jet 8 pass. This is a Coach Hurtler special. We call stay, so we're actually unbalanced. So our number 1 and our number 2 receiver on the ball. Brody is running jet 8. The whole O-line's blocking jet 8. Luke Yoder does a great job selling the block, and they're in man, so all he's got to do is beat the corner. The safety was running with Brody all night. I think I told you guys they double-teamed Brody the first time we played him, and they did that last night. And Luke does a great job selling it, and Brody puts it on him. That's actually the second touchdown pass Brody's had on that play this year.
All right, Brody, you said you got excited before when they called that play you scored a touchdown on. What are you thinking in the huddle when you hear this one called?
Oh, it's the same thing. Last time it worked, and I had a feeling it was going to work this time, just the way they like fly up on the jet motions. And for a second, I seen the safeties in the corner not really run up to me like I thought they would, but Luke sold perfectly and got past them, and I just threw the ball up to him.
Yeah, nice pass. Goes for a touchdown. All the momentum in your favor. As I said, 35-0. You guys outscore them in the second half. And run the last one, Billy. And we'll do this is just the icing on the cake for Brody, our player of the game. His second touchdown catch coming right at me, Brody. What's this play here?
Well, this is – so if you notice, Kenny, we put Brody in the backfield last night. We were trying to motion him because they were doubling him, making it complicated. And we didn't know what they were going to do. So as the game went on, I'm on the headset with Coach Butcher and my dad, and we're saying we're getting one-on-one coverage with Brody. And ironically, when we were on defense, like Carson and Brody both play defense, and I was talking to Coach Butcher saying, I think Brody can beat his guy on fade. And when we came over during the timeout, Brody told me and Coach Butcher, hey, I can beat my guy on a fade. And we asked Carson what he thought. So those guys were actually thinking the same thing we were. So we talked about it. We wanted to make sure we gave Brody the whole field instead of just the boundary. And Carson made a great throw. Brody goes up and makes a great catch, and touchdown Falcons.
Yeah, touchdown Falcons, Falcon Nation. Aha, going crazy there in the crowd, waving the towels, cheering you on. Brody, what does it mean for you to be part of the first team in school history to win a home playoff game at Fairless?
It means so much. Ever since I was a little kid, I dreamed of, doing something at Fairless. Doesn't matter what it was. I just wanted to make a difference somehow, and being part of this historic first playoff win at home just is a great feeling.
And AJ, for you, I know how much you love being there and trying to build a winning culture there. Last year, you win your first league title in how many years? This year, you're back-to-back as champs, but a win at home for the Fairless faithful. What does that mean to you?
I don't think you can describe it. You saw the energy and the crowd that we had and the white towels and how excited our student section was and our community, our administration. I mean, this has been a climb. It's been a mountain. And when these guys were sophomores, we lost to St. Joe's. We were up 17-14 going into the fourth quarter. And last year we played a really good Poland team. And this year we got it done. And there's nothing more special than winning a playoff game. You can tell these guys that. But until they actually get to do it, they don't understand it. And I think last night they got that feeling of how incredible it is to say, hey, we won a playoff game, because not very many people get that opportunity. It's funny, Coach DeMarco and me were texting and talking the other day, and we had Ed Glass who came in and talked to these guys. Like the playoffs, when they first started in 72, there were 12 teams in the entire state that made the playoffs. You had 3 divisions, 4 teams each division. And then, like DeMarco said, Hurtler Sr., who coached for 20 years, won over 150 games at Hoover, never even got to coach in a playoff game. Wow. And he had 2 undefeated teams in 72 and 75. Never even got to coach in a playoff game. So when you put that in perspective, that these guys have gotten to play in a playoff game 3 years in a row, and then you win one, and there's so many coaches and people that never even got the opportunity because we've evolved and more teams get in, which is a good thing. You're just really fortunate for that opportunity when you sit back and try to sink it in and think about what they've accomplished and what they've done.
All right, couple more things real quick. Coach, congratulations to you. Your 31st career win at Fairless. That ties the school record for most wins. I think you share that with Ron Rankin and Don Wilson. What's that mean to you to be in their company, and you're one win away from being the all-time winningest coach there?
I don't know. Players make plays. Coaches don't win games. Players do. I've had a great staff here. We haven't changed our coaching staff in 3 years. Ryan Murphy, my dad, Chad Butcher, Chad Clucci, Tim Wyatt, Robbie Miller. Our administration's been outstanding. Our parents have been great. So it's not one guy. And I think it just shows that we've turned Fairless around and we've won 3 years in a row and we've had really good kids. And Ron Rankin is an absolute legend in Stark County. Ross Rankin runs the East-West game. He came and talked to our kids at the beginning of the year. His dad's stickers on the back of our helmet. I don't know if you caught that. He just passed away, but we've got RR, and I was really fortunate. Fairless was my first teaching job. I coached for Don Wilson. I learned a lot from him. So both those guys, it's really cool that I share that with them right now, that those are the two lead guys, but it's never one guy. We've got a lot of really good players, really good coaches, and coaches never win games. It's players. And it just means that we've had a lot of success here recently. I'm just really happy for the kids in the program, and we're trending in the right direction.
Yeah, you are 47-22. You beat Orville last night, get the big win, outscore them 35-0 in the second half. And I got to experience something for the first time, Billy Beebe and everybody else watching. I got to experience the Ring of Fire. I was in the middle of the Ring of Fire. Coach, it's intense in there, and there's not any real fire coming out. I didn't know what to expect, and I was like, I'm running for my life in there, man. That was crazy.
I told you it gets pretty wild. Once you start going in that circle, it gets suffocating, and you got to have an exit strategy because then they get the break.
You didn't tell me about the exit strategy. Thanks, Coach.
I couldn't tell you. You got to experience it the first time. But it's so cool, though, because you got the band, the student section, the cheerleaders, the football players, they're all together. We're all Fairless, Ohio. We're all one. They get a break. And that's what high school football is all about. It's an event. It brings everybody together. And it's something really cool that we get to do and that our community loves.
The next time you're on the Kenny and JT show, I will sing Ring of Fire for you. I'm not doing it here today. It's too early in the morning for me, Coach. So on the radio, I'll sing it for you. And real quick, both you guys, congratulations on this playoff win, but I know you guys don't want it to end there. Lake County Perry, that's the next matchup for you guys in Division 5, Region 17. We got about a minute left here, Coach. What can you tell us about your next opponent?
I know they're really well coached. I got to coach with their head coach in the North-South game. They've been really successful for 10, 20 years now. Good quarterback, good running back, and they're going to play good football. So we'll dive into film today and tomorrow, but we're just excited that we're playing week 12. We get to play in November. We're practicing Monday, and we said the orange basketballs for Brody and Carson, and all of our other guys can stay in the closet for a few more weeks.
Yeah, no doubt. And before we get off, Billy, got to give some love. Landon Seal with a pick six in the game to end the scoring for you guys. We have to mention Carson Colucci, combined 380 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 passes, 2 rushes. Luke Yoder, 6 catches, $114 and a touchdown, a team effort in the second half. Congratulations to both you guys. Good luck next week, Coach, and we'll talk again soon. And keep doing what you're doing, Brody, all right?
Thank you. Thanks for having us on. We appreciate it.
The Fairless Falcons, flying high after that win last night over the Orville Red Riders. So great to hear from both of those guys, Billy. And we're going to go. You've been asking about the cold weather and everything, right, Billy, with some of the coaches and that. So let's bring in our next guest from Ortho United, formerly Spectrum Orthopedics. Now it's Ortho United Spectrum Omni. Let's bring in orthopedic surgeon Dr. Ajay Seth, who joins us on a regular basis here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. First of all, Doc, congratulations on combining the forces there. That would be like combining the Bengals and the Browns. Well, not the Browns. That's a bad example. The Bengals and who won the Super Bowl last year? Yeah, the 2 giants together in Stark County to provide the care that you guys do. How excited are you about that, first of all?
Yeah, I think it gets more and more excited as time goes on. It's been a big news thing, and it's great because I think you take two phenomenal orthopedic groups and bring them together, which again, like we had talked about, is you're trying to keep everybody local. We don't want people going up north. We think that you have the best talent down here in Stark County. And it's just like football here. We think we have the best football in the state in Stark County. You want to keep everything local, and that's why this has worked out. I think it's going to work out great. We start January 1st. But I think it's going to work out really, really well, not only for all of us in orthopedics and the two groups, but for the community, for staff. I mean, I think we're going to end up having close to 300 staff to help us out.
Wow.
It's going to be a very big corporation, I think, and I think it's only going to get better and better from here on out.
Yeah, exciting. A big, great team all coming together like football teams do. So let's go to that. Billy's been asking all these coaches and these players about cold weather and how it affects, the coaches, the players on Friday nights now with the temperature drop. Coach, you and I were talking about this. You wanted to weigh in on giving some advice about the cold weather. What would that advice be?
Yeah, so that's an interesting point because the first session we had, we talked all about heat, and now, man, time has gone quicker. Already talking about the cold. So there's a couple things that I think you have to think about when it comes to cold weather. The first thing is that the way your body works is you have to get blood flow to your muscles. So you get blood flow to your muscles, which brings the oxygen, causes them to contract, hence gives you that speed, the force you need. Whenever it gets cold out, your body, it's called thermoregulation. It's just a fancy name of saying that your body is smart enough to adapt to the weather elements, okay? So when you go out and it's cold, you would think that your blood flow should go to your hands and your feet. It's the farthest away from the body to keep them warm. And it's the exact opposite. When it gets cold, all of your blood flow stays at the center core. Why? Because you want to get to your brain and your heart and your lungs and everything. So you take away most of the blood vessels. You're taking away your blood from the extremities, so your hands, your feet, your arms, and it's a survival thing, so your brain doesn't adapt that. Oh, I'm playing sports, let's just pump some more blood into the muscles because we need them. Your body doesn't do it. Your body is more made for survival than it is for sports. So what happens is, as it gets cold, you're not able to contract those muscles as well as you could in the heat. So a lot of times what I notice is everybody warms up. You go out and you warm up, which is great. And then you go sit in the locker room and you wait. Well, that's the exact opposite of what you're trying to do. You're trying to keep your blood flow to your muscles going. And so what they've shown in studies is that, let's say you do the warm up, you have to do everything you can to keep that muscle temperature up and not come down, because as you're on the sidelines, it comes down and it's hard to kick it back in. So for me, it's almost like I'd said before, it's like a practice where you're constantly going. We had talked about before, people practice for 2 hours straight. They don't give you 30 minutes to go sit. It's the same thing should be in a game. You got to keep these guys going, because as you keep using your muscles, it's going to keep them warm. So if you come in, at halftime, you do what you need to. You have to keep that locker room as hot as you can. You got to keep, heat on your muscles. You could do whatever you want to keep that muscle from, losing its temperature.
Doc, I think we talked about the weather a little bit, and that changed from this time of year to now. Same with injuries. How have injuries that have kind of been treated all year long, how different is it now, both over time and with the weather change?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Most of the injuries that I see usually come at the beginning of the season. I don't see as many as it gets in the cold weather. I think two reasons. One, you are already getting adapted to the season. But two, I think a lot of it is that in the physicality, you're not really necessarily playing at your 100% efficient when it's 10 degrees outside. It's almost impossible. So you're not having the same kind of ability to, cut. You're not having the same ability to change directions and motions like you did when it's hot, where you get a lot of those ACL or the ligament or the ankle sprains. So I think the injuries actually go down. The thing also, though, that goes down is sometimes the mental cognition where, when you're cold, you're not thinking the same as when it's, 60 degrees outside. So from the injury standpoint, I think it actually goes down when it becomes cold.
All right, Coach, what would you tell coaches and players who are dealing with injuries, have been dealing all season long with those injuries, right? And this is go time, right? This is the playoffs, and they want to make it through. As far as any advice during the week, should they rest more? Should they be more active? Does it depend on the injury? What advice would you give them to keep them as close to 100% or 80%, 90% as they can be?
Yeah, so for me at this point, it's kind of the reverse, especially game days where you're not using ice like you did before. You're kind of switching where you want to keep your body moving. And for me, you want to rest up, absolutely, but it's really important to just still keep that conditioning, that motion for your muscles going. What you don't want to do at this point now is you don't do anything, and then Friday night you go, your muscles are deconditioning a little bit. You try to get a forceful contracture, and that's when you could get a muscle strain or something. So in my opinion is you want to keep it going. That's really important. The second, which I think is a huge thing, is the clothing. To me, it's probably one of the most important things on game day. You have to have logical reasons of how you're dressing, okay? And what I mean by that is that when you are in cold weather, what causes your temperature to go down is not only the cold, but it's wetness. So when you sweat, you have to have garments that will wick that moisture away. So if you have something poly or cotton, it's not going to wick away. So you're basically playing with a soaking wet shirt, which is not going to let your muscles bring up in temperature. So it is super important that whatever you're wearing, you could get that sweat off. Wool actually is able to absorb that sweat and not drop your temperature. So when you dress for these games, it's got to be, if you do layers or what have you, you have to have, the most important is what is going to be touching your skin.
Okay.
So if you have something that's not going to pull away that moisture, you are going to never be able to get that core body temperature where it needs to go. And here's a prime example. And I was reading something that's, and it kind of makes sense. And people wear double layers of socks. Okay. And then they put their feet in their shoes. Well, what we talked about is when it's cold, you vasoconstrict, basically. Your blood vessels clamp down. Okay. When you put a double pair of socks into your shoes, your feet feel like they're getting squeezed. Well, what are you doing? You're causing compression. What happens? You get less blood flow into your feet. And I never realized that, but it made complete sense. So it's almost like the studies have showed you double layer your socks, you got to go up a size. So my opinion on that is whatever you're putting, you don't want to have compression. In summer, yes, but do not have anything that's going to compress your arms or legs. People think that produces heat, and it doesn't. When you compress, like if you have a swollen ankle, what do? You put an ACE wrap around it. Well, why are you doing it? You're trying to constrict the blood flow, trying to get rid of swelling. Well, it's counterintuitive. If your body has already taken away the blood flow and you put something constrictive, it's counterbalanced, counterintuitive. So what you need to do is a couple things. One, make sure you get the right layers on the kids. Number two, make sure there's nothing constrictive. Here's my opinion. A lot of times you'd see people going in warm-ups without equipment or anything on. If you're going to do warm-ups and you're going to bring them back in, have them change their clothes, have them do whatever on their if it's underarm or whatever. Make sure they're not going out in that first quarter with stuff that's already soaking wet, because it right off the bat you're going to have a problem.
Great stuff, Doc. And those are things that you really don't think about. And this time of the year, we're getting into the cold weather and everything like that. So coaches out there, pay attention. He knows of what he speaks. He is a doctor. He doesn't just play one on the radio or on the Saturday morning huddle. He's an actual orthopedic surgeon and studies this stuff. So, Doc, great information as always. Thanks for dropping that knowledge on everybody.
Absolutely. Look forward to seeing you on the sideline somewhere.
Yeah, sounds great, Doc. Have a great weekend. Go Bucks.
Go Bucks. Talk to you later, guys. Thanks.
You got it. Dr. Ajay Seth, board certified orthopedic surgeon, now with what is going to be called Ortho United with Spectrum and Omni joining forces. So are you happy now, Billy, with all the weather questions you've been asking? What did you learn? I'm gonna quiz you right now. What did you learn from Dr. Ajay Seth right there?
From Dr. Seth, I learned you got to make sure your body is able to bring the temperature back up. So, that Under Armour, those whatever they're wearing, make sure that it's dry when you come out for the start of the game and the second half. And on a player note, I think I learned they don't care much about the cold. They're ready to rock. They're ready to go. I know Davide said he's going cut off.
Right.
Sarbaugh didn't notice. I know he wears long sleeve and a vest, so he kind of bundles up a little bit compared
to players like me.
Some people.
Yeah, see, you're up in the booth, so you're a little bit warmer. When I'm on the side, let's see, last night, what did I do I went one pair of socks, but they're Dickies thermal socks, so that's what I had on there. Didn't bring the long johns out yet, okay? So those are still, folded up in the drawer. Let's see, I had the T-shirt, and I have a nice like a wool Ohio State sweater that I wear as my main piece, and then I put a jacket and a hood over top of that. So, I was probably 3 layers on top, but 1 layer down below. So keeping that, like he said, the core warm, because where's the heart that pumps the blood to send it, right? You got to keep the core warm, and it sends it out everywhere else. So, but now I need to know that I need moisture wicking underneath everything. So I don't, my body doesn't feel the coldness from the dampness and the wetness.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, we're kind of seeing that temperature drop. I was open booth last night at Lake, so I could feel it a little bit, certainly not as much as you down there, but the players seem to like it. The coaches seem to like it. And it's like Jason Davide said, the adrenaline's there, not only in warm-ups, but the start of the game, the kickoff, I think halftime, they come back out. I think it's tough. Dr. Seth always talks about you want to stay moving and you want to keep going and you don't want to rest. But, you go to the locker room. I always think when he says that, I'm like, you go to the locker room, I don't think you have really much choice but to warm up, which kind of stinks. I know at Mount Union, they used to go out like 2 hours before the game with just the football pants on. I was in Wisconsin once and the players went out in -4 degree weather, just the football pants, because they wanted to get ready to go. They wanted to feel it, and they stayed outside the locker room at halftime because they didn't want to get used to the warm.
Interesting. Yeah, everybody's different. I'm sure there'll be more studies on this coming out. So we'll have to pay attention to it as that information becomes available. Hey, we're looking at the scores on the bottom of the page there, the scroll, right? So while we're waiting for our next guest, Brian Baum, let's take a look at some of these games as we have bits of information. Let's see, where did I put? I have so many things. Here we go. All right. So as we're waiting on Coach Baum with some information, McKinley, a good win for McKinley last night. We see in Division I, Region 1, they beat Glen Oak for a second time this season, 40-22, a little bit closer than the first time they played. It was 40-7, right, Billy? But 40-22, they led 28-0 in the third quarter, did McKinley. Sincere McNeil, who hurt his ankle in, what was it, the kickoff, the opening kickoff at Massillon last week, did not play at all. Nino Hill, who's also a little bit dinged, only played in the first half last night. Keaton Rohde had a big game for McKinley last night. The quarterback, 18 of 27, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. He also carried it 9 times for 12 yards, scored on the ground. So he totaled 4 TDs in the game for McKinley last night. Keith Quincy had 3 catches for 49 yards and 2 touchdowns and an interception on defense. So he kind of filled in for Sincere McNeil. Trayson Foster with 3 catches, 74 yards, a touchdown. Trayton Mackey was the feature back last night, 13 carries, 60 yards, and a score for McKinley. As we mentioned, Nino Hill, only the first half, minimal carries, 6 for 19 yards, no scores. Maurice Hill had a punt return for a touchdown. Jamar Johnson with the 3 scores for Glen Oak in their losses. Their season comes to an end. And McKinley now at Mentor on Friday is their next matchup. So we'll see what Coach Hall can do. Last year they won 2 playoff games after losing to Massillon. We're hoping they win at least 2 playoff games this year and move on. And we'll see who they get after Mentor if they're lucky enough to get the win. Were you surprised at McKinley, or did you expect that over Glen Oak last night?
Well, I expected a win. Keaton Rohde was actually the guy I kind of said to myself, I want to see how he responds. You talked about it. Nino Hill was banged up. Sincere McNeil leaves in that Massillon game, so they lean on Keaton Rohde, and he was under pressure all day. He had some underthrows. He had some overthrows, but he had some moments bringing him back. I thought that was a roller coaster game for him. It was hot. It was kind of a weird situation. Obviously, it's tough to play at Massillon. So I said, all right, I want to see what he does this week. You read his stat line, Kenny. He was tremendous. It seems like they leaned on him and a new group of receivers a little bit to kind of get that one going. He was great. And then the benefit for McKinley, twice in a row, you get opponents you've already played. You played Glen Oak, you played Mentor. And I was talking to Eric Snell about it in the studio today. I was like, well, they played Mentor, but I think they feel good about the way they played the first time. And really, it's one of those losses where I think they finished that one and said, man, if we played that game 10 times, I think we get it, 8 or 9. So, here's your shot. And I believe they're on the road for that one. So that's going to be tough. But
they played in their building already, Billy. That's the optical, the optics. Your brain, you're not going to a strange stadium. Hey, we played here earlier this year. Okay, we know this stadium. Yeah, we outgained them, right? We had more first downs, I think, than them in that first game. So, that's gonna be an even matchup, and hopefully, Sincere McNeil and Nino Hill are back for McKinley. I think they're going to need both of those guys if they're going to knock off Mentor next week.
Yeah, I agree, and a lot's going to fall on their defense too. Who I thought both had a slow start, and it seems like they had moments in those first couple losses where they needed the defense, and it didn't quite come through. So you'll get that next round, hopefully. That's what they're hoping. The defense steps up. The defense owns what they are, and you can rely on Keaton Rohde and Nino Hill and Sincere McNeil if they can go as planned. That's the goal, right? Lean on your best players when it's playoff time. We've seen how many of these teams have we talked about today, Kenny, that they just leaned on their best players, got the ball in the hands of their best players, and they won. I think Jackson's a great example. They just gave Davide the ball. Pomnio, that was one of the names we figured would get the rock. Lake, they have a slew of players, but, they got their good players the ball and they scored. So, it was a little bit of everything, and it looks like McKinley's going to have to do that in the next round. Get your best players the ball, and you might shock Mentor on the road and move on. And like I said, that's not a David Goliath. I really think that's about an even matchup, especially with one game under their belt this season.
Massillon, how did they respond after beating McKinley last week? Well, they played Perry and crushed them 48-7. Nate Moore, congratulations to Nate Moore. We talked about Ajay Sarbaugh tying the school record for wins with 31, right? Well, Nate Moore just tied Paul Brown for the most wins at Massillon with 80 victories. So congratulations to Nate Moore, his 80th win. So if he wins next week against Canal Winchester and it's a home game, he will be the all-time winningest coach there at Massillon. And that's a hell of a history of coaches from Paul Brown to Earl Bruce all the way up now to Nate Moore. So congratulations to Nate. His team gets him a 48-7 win. Will Terrell Hartson, 14 carries, 111 yards, 3 touchdowns in the victory. Miles Lennox, 6 carries, 99 yards, and 2 scores. Ardell Banks, boy, this kid's that's a hell of a receiver to throw to, man. 6 grabs, $150, and 2 scores. Jalen Slaughter only threw it 9 times, completed 7 passes, 143 yards there. And they had I don't know if they lined him up because we didn't do the game at quarterback or used a little trickeration, but Braylon Tolles with a pass to Ardell Banks for a touchdown of 28 yards. And how about the defense last night for Massillon? They hold DeAndre Church, a 1,000-yard rusher in the wing T offense, 7 carries, 8 yards for DeAndre Church last night. So great job by their defense. They improved now to 9-1 on the season, and they've got a home game against Canal Winchester, and we expect them to win that. And if so, Nate will set the record there. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, a lot going on at Massillon. They're record setting. They're playing well. I kind of noted the only way Perry had a chance in that one was if they could really throw him off with the wing T, wear him down with the wing T, control the clock. Massillon got up big early. They never gave him a shot, and that's the problem. We talk about with Perry, we talk about with Green. When you have such special offenses that require a certain game plan, if things go haywire, it's very difficult to climb back into games. We saw Green last night had the lead, and then, they went down, and all of a sudden, when your offense isn't clicking, you're giving the ball right back over and over. For Perry, if they go down, they're killing clock with their own offense. So, it's very difficult. Yeah. And again, Massillon, how many times have we said it? Other people said it, Kenny. This is Nate Moore's most talented crew. A lot of people are saying this is an all-time team. And, what a time to break that record coming up if they can do it next week. The Tigers certainly, they're going, and we're keeping an eye on Massillon, Lake, and Hoover in that little bundle. Who's going to meet who, when they're going to go at it, and they could all kind of meet each other at certain points during the playoffs. So we're rooting for all of them to kind of continue.
That's that Division II Region 7 that Billy's talking about right there. Elsewhere in games, Division 4 Region 13, congratulations to John DeMarco and the Indians of Northwest, a 49-21 winner over Streetsboro yesterday. Caden Beckler, how about a pick six in the second quarter, a 56-yard touchdown grab from Chase Badger. Badger, a nice game, 2 TD passes, 1 TD run. And, of course, when you talk about Northwest this year, you talk about Kyler Maraglia, 131 yards rushing and 2 scores in that win for Northwest. They outscored Streetsboro 29-0 in the second quarter. They get the win, and they move on. Their next matchup will be against Akron Buchtel. And I think we may be doing that one on WHBC and Mix 94-1 Friday night at Northwest. So congratulations to Coach DeMarco. Gets a share of the Pac-7 championship this year and gets the first round win in the playoffs. Yeah,
and I'm familiar with Buchtel. I watched them play Hoover to start the season. That's a strong defensive line. So
okay.
They're going to have to go at it as far as both running the ball, and when they pass, Kenny, they got to get it out fast. That defensive line that's their team. They've got 4 upperclassmen who have played very well in their career so far and hope to continue that. They're a young team everywhere else, which I think, as you know, during the playoffs can pay off and can be your downfall. We've seen young teams kind of explode and really not know where they are or what they're doing, but just play. We've also seen young teams kind of really struggle and have a hard time. But that D-line for Buchtel, that's going to be a challenge for Northwest.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Getting ready to talk with Dan DeGeorge from the Lake Blue Streaks here in just a second while we wait for him to get locked and loaded here on the Saturday morning huddle. Let's tell you that Canton South beat Salem last night 28-21. Matt Dennison in his second year he helps them get their first playoff win since 2008. So a lot happening this year for Canton South. They moved to the Pac-7. They get a share of the Pac-7 title. First title for them in 59 years. They win their first playoff game since 2008. Wildcats led 21-0 at half. They got to do something about holding on to leads in the second half, though.
I know.
They led 21-0 last week at Northwest, won that game 21-20 as Northwest failed on a 2-point conversion. This week, they led 21-0 at the half, and they win it 28-21. Poochie Snyder, 3 TD passes to Tyler Pugh, the tight end. Poochie also had an 11-yard touchdown run. So as Poochie goes, so go the Wildcats of Canton South, and they move on to play Beaver Local next Friday night. They will be on the road at Beaver Local next Friday night. So congratulations to Canton South getting a 28-21 win over Salem. And that was a tough first-round matchup for Canton South.
Well, let me ask you this, Kenny. I know I mentioned this to George Bazika last night. When you have a lead, especially in a game that you feel maybe you shouldn't be winning or was going to be a tough win, for Canton South, they were favored, so that's a different example. But Do you think it's tempting? And I'll ask Coach DeGeorge this coming up. Is it tempting, do you think, to run the clock out? And I think, or at least press running the clock out and killing time. I think Orville's a great example. 22-12, they're beating Fairless on the road. You know, how tempting do you think it is for a team to say, okay, we've got our lead, let's get out of here?
Here's what I think you do what got you the lead. If you break away from that, then you're putting yourself at risk. Now, do you take more time getting in and out of the huddle? Yes, unless you're a no huddle team. I'm a believer of, why am I up 21-0? I'm going to continue to do that, okay? But yes, there are times to manage the game, right? And so, and we can talk to Coach DeGeorge about this, but I'm a believer of keep, foot on the gas, pedal to the metal. If that's what got you the lead, do it. But then be smart, late in the game, fourth quarter, play clock. No need to snap it with 10 seconds, right? Take it down to 3, 2, 1, snap the ball and shorten the game that way. So that's my belief on that.
All right, let's get to Coach DeGeorge here. Coach, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Doing terrific. A big win for you guys last night, taking down Dublin Scioto. We asked Coach earlier about this. In a situation where you're playing an unfamiliar opponent, a non-Federal League opponent, how difficult is that for you guys to prepare? We asked Coach Rohr about that earlier as Jackson took on Brea mid-part. But for you guys, a team from Columbus, really not too much familiarity.
Yeah, it's a little bit different because, as you mentioned, you're not familiar with them. Their coaches a little bit different than playing your Federal League teams, where a lot of times you have some background of how they do things. We exchanged 3 films in the playoffs with your opponent, so that gives us a good idea of what they're doing, both schematically, offensively, and defensively. But we had a dogfight last night. We tried to tell our kids all week that they were well coached. They were going to come up here and play hard, and they really did that. It took us about a half to get things going.
Coach, 2 versus 15. I said this on the radio. They weren't a 15 seed, right? They play a good schedule down there. And I looked at that and I'm like, you know what? This is going to be closer than people think. I think Lake's going to win, but that's a good football program, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I said that all week to our kids and to you guys in the press and just anybody that asked me. I think a lot of people were thinking we were just going to roll, and that was not the case. I give Dublin a lot of credit, their coaching staff a lot of credit at that long 2-hour drive, but their kids played extremely hard. They did some really good things and had us on our heels there at halftime in the beginning of the third quarter. So it was a really good football game, and we finally warmed down a little bit in the third quarter. But, yeah, it was not a typical 15 seed at all.
Yeah, Coach, I was there. I did the game for our stream game. It felt like 4 different games to me, a first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. What did you think about, kind of the ever-changing swing back and forth?
Sure. Yeah, I agreed with that. I told our kids that this morning. It was a choppy game. We played really well in the first quarter, scored, played good defense, fell apart a little bit in the second quarter as well. Challenged our kids at halftime. They came out in the third quarter and they scored on us and they took the lead 14-13. And I think from there, our kids finally stepped it up. We turned the ball over a couple times in the first half, which you can't do. We let them convert on some 3rd and longs. So we put ourselves in that situation. But as I mentioned, Dublin was good, but it was a different game for sure. But we're glad with the outcome.
And Coach, talking about pivotal points in the game, you guys had a 13-7 lead. I believe that this was just before halftime. If you can lean in and look at this play here, it's 4th and 1, really at about the 2. Scioto reaches, doesn't get it. How big is this, both for your defense and in the scheme of the entire game?
Sure, that was huge. We hadn't been playing great defense up to that point. Our kids made a really big play there on 4th down. Defensive line did a nice job. The linebackers cleaned up. We were able to keep their quarterback, out of the end zone. He was a tough play. Ran the ball fairly well. But, that kept us in a decent spot going into halftime rather than being down. But they moved the ball on us a lot. We did not play great defense the whole night. We found a way in the 3rd and 4th quarter to clean things up a little bit.
What's it say about your team, though, Coach? They didn't panic. We had Fairless last night, right? Fairless is down 22-12. They played a horrible first half. AJ even talked about that with us earlier here on the Saturday morning huddle, but he didn't yell at halftime. He didn't give the rah-rah speech. They were calm. He knew if they could get back to what they did all season, they would come out on the other side. What about you? What was the halftime like for you?
Sure. Yeah, I was pretty calm as well at halftime, and we were up 13-7. It seemed like we were losing by 20 at halftime. How our kids were acting. So we reminded them that we didn't play well, but we were still winning. Right. Now, some of my other coaches, my defensive coordinator, some other guys, they got after our kids. That's their job. We challenged them. And all the kids respond in different ways too. But I reminded them going down for the second half that we were still winning. It was an ugly first half, but we were still in a decent position. And they responded to that. And like I said, we tackled much better in the second half. And we also took care of the ball. We didn't turn the ball over and give Dublin short field. So, kids responded well, even though we didn't play great.
Coach, kind of a tougher question here. I know everybody kind of wonders this. You have the 2-quarterback system. If one quarterback impresses on a certain drive and one quarterback struggles, do you consider changing it up, flipping it up, giving an extra drive? I know you guys bounce back and forth. Does that change in your mind as the game goes on, or are you sticking with Kale one drive, Will Butler the other?
Yeah, we're just trying to win football games. It's worked pretty well for us to rotate both those guys, but situationally, if Will's running the ball really well, we might keep him in for back-to-back drives. Same thing with throwing the ball and some of our RPO stuff. We'll keep Kale in. We tell him that we're going to go into the game rotating them, but the game is going to dictate what happens, just like every other position. Bottom line is we're trying to win football games. We're not counting how many reps each kid gets at a certain spot. And both our quarterbacks understand that. They just want to win. They're supporting each other. So we got to put ourselves in the best situation to win a football game, particularly now that you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, you did that last night, 33-17, a win over Dublin Scioto. You dominate the fourth quarter. What was it about the fourth, Coach, where you guys just took control of this football game?
Yeah, I think our kids, we're in decent shape. We've emphasized, the fourth quarter and how important that is a little bit more this year and in the off season, conditioning wise, and our kids responded. We made some plays defensively. We knocked some balls down, covered a little bit tighter in the fourth quarter as well. And offensively, we were able to establish the run. We kept things inside the box with Solberger and Nate Baker and running Will. And we finally, I think, won the battle at the line of scrimmage. Our offensive line had a really good second half. Told them that this morning in films, and that paid off for us. We were able to go on some long drives and then score touchdowns at the end of those drives.
All right, Coach, pregame, I thought you guys were doing like a Federal League trophy presentation, but you ended up honoring a community member, somebody who's worked hard for the Lake. Both community, the school, the football program. Talk a little bit about what you guys got to do pregame.
Sure. Yeah, we honored Steve Cutting. He's one of our custodians here. He's worked for 45 years for Lake Local Schools. The last 20 some years, he's run our football complex. So he's the guy that's cleaning the locker room, cleaning the weight room, making sure the field's prepped. And as a head coach, that guy's extremely important. He's also just a class act, man. He bleeds blue. He's a blue streak, supports our kids, always there for us. One of those guys behind the scenes that some people don't see all that he does, but we talk about here. There's a handful of people around here that bleed blue and just love this place. And Steve Cutting's one of those. Our players love him, so we thought it was important to honor him. Well deserved.
Yeah, nice job. Well done by you and also by the team, understanding the importance of everybody in a program. Their job as small as it might be, because it's not game related, it still means something throughout the program in building a winning culture, correct?
Absolutely. That's at the end of the day, man, that's more important than anything else.
Yeah. And Coach, what's it mean for you guys to get win number 10? I was writing some notes down here. First 10-win season since 2010 with that state semifinal team at Lake.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's exciting. We still get to play. We don't have to turn our equipment in, so we're jacked about that. Our kids are excited. We got a tough draw. Columbus DeSales is a really good football team. We've been breaking them down this morning, so probably probably one of the better defenses we're going to go against. We still got a lot of work to do there. But, yeah, very exciting season. I think someone told me this morning there have been 8 or 9 teams in our school history that have won 10 games, so it's nice to be a part of that. But the goal now shifts to let's find a way to get number 11. We'll continue to talk about going 1-0 this week in the locker room, and hopefully we can do that Friday night.
What does the week look like for you guys, Coach? I think a lot of people want to know, does it change for playoffs? Is there more practice, less practice, rest?
Sure, that's a great question. The season's so long; it's such a grind with 2-a-days and all summer long. And we try to stay as normal as possible. Monday's a big intro review day. We share with them the scouting report and what Columbus sales is going to look like offensively, defensively, special teams wise. We go out and we'll do some walk through stuff and review and fix some of our mistakes from last Friday night. Tuesday and Wednesday are really more contact days, offense and defensive structured, where we really get after it, cover all 3 phases. And then Thursday, we come back with a sort of walk through review, make sure we cover all the situations, also hit the weight room in there and watch a lot of film. So we got a lot of guys banged up. So we talked about, do you back off? Do you not? But we're going to continue to do what's worked for us so far. And hopefully that will be a good plan.
Matt Solberger with a big night for you last night, 26 carries, 129 on the ground and a touchdown. The thing I love about your team, Coach, and I said this when we did, the game a couple of weeks ago, or I'm like you, I don't know what week it is, but we did your game, is that it's as well-rounded of a team as there is in Stark County. Each week, somebody else can be the bell cow, the go-to guy. And we've heard so much about Will and Kale all year, but now in this game, the biggest game of the year, Matt comes up and provides you with what you needed.
Sure. Matthew's been a mainstay for us at tailback. I mean, he's the only guy we really played there all year. Does a nice job, did a really good job last night. And it was okay last night for us to get 4 or 5 yard runs at a time. We were winning the line of scrimmage. You got to be able to run the football in the playoffs. And You're right. We do have a handful of guys we can go to. Last week, we threw the ball around a little bit to Dylan Snyder. The other guy last night had a big night for us with Nate Baker, caught a touchdown, rushed for a touchdown. So when you have some options, it's obviously very nice. And we do this year.
Coach, real quick, Kenny and I were just discussing this before you jumped on. And I know you had kind of a different situation in your game, but as a coach in a big game like this, you grab a 1 or 2 score lead, even early. Is there a temptation or a mindset to say, all right, let's kill the clock and get out of here? Or do you try and stick with what you have?
Yeah, I mean, you're playing week 11 in the playoffs. The goal is to win the football game. A lot of people will talk about surviving and advancing, and that's what you have to do. So we talked a little bit about that last night with our quarterbacks. Just be aware of the situation. We have a lead. We don't need to snap the ball with 20 seconds left on the play clock. Work it down a little bit. At the same time, it's still a football game, and you got to try to get first downs. You want to be aggressive and score. It was 3rd and 8. We were up by 12, and we took a shot deep to Baker on a post, and it worked out for us. So it's definitely something you have to balance because you want to be smart. You want to use your time wisely, but you also don't want to have that affect how aggressive you are in your normal offensive play calling.
Hey, Coach, it's been a fun season so far. Federal League champs, 10-win season. Keep it going. Don't let it stop. We want to cover you for at least 5 more weeks, I think.
Hey, absolutely. That's the game plan. Appreciate you guys.
All right, thanks so much. Dan DeGeorge, head coach there at Lake. First 10-win season since 2010 for them, Billy. And what was the crowd like? You did the game last night. What was the crowd like there in Blue Street Country?
Yeah, crowd was electric to start. And obviously they had, like I said, they had a weird second and third quarter. I think everybody was trying to figure out, but that touchdown he just talked about with Nate Baker, it looked like kill clock time, Kenny. They had, I believe, a 10-point lead or a 9-point lead, and they were just trying to get out of there and finish it. They hadn't played up to their complete standard yet. And, they called it deep, and it was Will Butler too, that threw it to Nate Baker. And you talked about Matt Solberger. All their usual playmakers were there last night, offense and defense. Dylan Snyder had a good game, a couple nice catches. Cale Jarvis, Will Butler, and their line continues to impress on both sides of the ball. They give their quarterbacks all day. They create room to run, and they created a ton of pressure. I showed you that goal line stop. It was a 13-7 game headed for halftime. So if Scioto takes that lead, that's an ugly look at halftime, and that's not what they did, and they kept it.
Can you run that again? I want to take a look at that again because I was amazed that he didn't get in on that, and then we'll check in with Jeff Lindesmith from Central. Watch this. I thought for sure he's going to get in right there, and somehow they keep the ball out of the end zone. It looks like it might have touched the front of the goal line, but the official comes running over and spots it short of the end zone. So it's those little plays that you look back on, right, Billy, that could end up being the difference in a team gaining confidence or losing confidence and losing the game.
Yeah, I talked about the line. I mean, if you watch it, Kenny, the quarterback clearly thinks he's just going to get the push. He hits that line, realizes there's no push. He ran into Lake defenders. So he said to himself, I'm going to just drop at the line. And George and I talked about it. That's never the way to go. If you think you can just drop at somebody's feet to get in, that's not going to work out. And it clearly did not work out there. So credit to the Lake offense and the Lake defensive line. And I know they have a couple two-way guys, so they were tremendous there. They're also very deep. They had a couple moments where guys, either two-way guys or guys that were just subbing in and helping out made huge plays. I mean, Will Butler had 3 or 4 pass breakups as a safety in a corner. Okay. So, Lake looks terrific. And like I said, 2 tough quarters, but 2 really good quarters. If they can just make that 4 Lake Street quarters, they'll do it.
They're going to need to against Columbus DeSales. They can't play 2 out of 4 quarters and win that game, even though it's at home. All right, let's move along here to another victor last night. Central Catholic, a home game against Mineral Ridge that I know absolutely nothing about. And I don't need to know anything more than Central beat them last night, 35-7. Jeff Lindesmith, head coach of the Crusaders, joining us here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Coach, congratulations on the win last night. You've got to be feeling pretty good about a convincing 35-7 victory.
Yeah, it was nice. A team that came in, Mineral Ridge, pretty good sized team that wanted to power the football a little bit at us, and have relatively some young defensive tackles, and we were a little bit concerned. We did put some things in. I thought we played a very, very good defensive game. Had a nice red zone stop right before the half. That was gave us a little bit momentum, but we got the ball back. I think kind of put got us going a little bit. We got the ball back with about a minute to go. Drove 90 yards, hit a big pass to Jack Hopkins, and didn't sit on a 14-7 lead. Took one at 21-7 at halftime, and really played well. I think they rushed probably 46 times for the game and averaged just under 3 yards a carry.
Wow.
So we played some defense.
Yeah, Coach, you guys had the long week, too, getting ready for this one. Your last game on a Thursday. How'd you enjoy the couple extra days?
Oh, boy, it was really nice. You know what? I think our kids, and we try to, we always talk about the journey. You get 10 weeks in. We did take a couple days off with our kids got off their legs after Thursday night's game at Aquinas. Friday, they just watched film and rehabbed a little bit. I gave them Saturday and Sunday off. I actually took my wife out to dinner Saturday, but we worked.
Holy cow. Carla got to go out to dinner with you?
There you go. That was really nice. And you know what? It was a nice day. We worked all day Sunday. We had a little bit on them on Saturday, but got to recharge the battery a little bit. And our coaching staff spends so much time here. They do such a great job that it was kind of nice to give them a Saturday off, and they can do whatever they want to do. And they weren't allowed to call me or see me. We just get a little break because we spent a lot of time together.
I need to do that more often with the guy that I work with. Not call me. I don't want to see him. I don't want to talk to him for a week, 2 weeks. That'd be kind of nice, Coach.
That will never happen. It's never happened in my lifetime. He's always got to have a call. He's got to tell you a joke. He's got to be in some type of your business. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely. JT, absolutely. What was the key offensively last night? Because I look at, and of course, Jack is the straw that stirs the drink for you guys, but you, like other teams, also – Anderson last week, 230 yards, 5 touchdowns. You have a number of guys that can really make plays for you. Conley, Hopkins, Boron, all those guys. But Jack's the focal point there. So what was I guess, don't give me the entire game plan going in, but with him going into this contest because he put up big numbers again last night.
Yeah, well, Mineral Ridge, they challenged us a little bit. It was really the first pressure 3-3 stack team that we played. We've prepared a little bit against some stack, and we thought that the Jackson would play a little bit more stack against us and pressure us. A 3-3 front that they come from all different angles, and we do a lot of motions. We do a lot of different things like that we try to figure out and dictate what their defense is going to do and then counter what they are going to do. But I thought in the beginning of the game last night, our offense was rushing a little bit, trying to get into the game and get moving to light the scoreboard up. We were playing a little bit fast, and their pressures a little bit surprised us, and they did some different things off of that stack that we were kind of prepared for, but not quite as fast, not quite as big. We had to settle down a little bit. We thought the key to our game, we were going to look at some more of our counter plays and some of our reads off of that. Last week at Aquinas, we ran Alex on some counters. This time we ran Jack a little bit more on some counters that once we could figure out exactly what they were going to do and slow down a little bit, we started executing a lot better.
Yeah, Talkington, Billy, finishes with 271 total offensive yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 in the air, 2 on the ground, and they get the big win. And special teams, though, Coach, right? Special teams matter in big games like this, and you guys came up huge yesterday in the third quarter.
Yeah, it's something really we talk about every year. And I told these guys before the game, just a little bit experience in the playoffs on how special teams is such a big role in momentum, and really it's such a big role in sometimes just putting the game away. And it was funny, we get a stop, and Danny Boron punts one 66 yards from about the 3-yard line, changes the field for us.
Wow.
And then we get the ball back and score. A big momentum change. They did come down and have a really nice catch in a corner of the end zone against us and scored. And they kicked off, and Marconi runs it back 90 yards. So once they got momentum, we took it right back from them. Something we work on continually. And I just know how important it is. A botch punt, a shanked punt, a big return changes momentum, changes team's outlook, especially in high school. And that's something we focused on a lot.
Coach, we've talked about it a couple times on this show and in general. These are 16-year-old, 17-year-old kids. You never know how they're going to respond in the moment. How did your guys look getting ready for the playoffs and in the moment last night?
Yeah, I thought our preparation was good. I didn't have a real good feeling in the locker room. I could just tell they were a little bit antsy. Some of these guys played last year at Mogador. Most of the guys didn't play the year before in the playoffs, but I just think they were a little bit antsy, wanted to go, and really weren't themselves. Like I said, they were kind of sped up a little bit. I think they were trying to get things done before. Slow down, do the fundamental things, do the little things, and everything will work out. And it was kind of an experience for us, probably about a quarter and a half last night. But our defense kept us in the game, and that's always important. And our defense was solid till our offense settled down, and we got some big throws. We threw the ball to Alex Anderson a little bit more than we ran him last night. I think he ended up with almost like 50, 60 yards in the air, some of the things. And so I think overall it was fine. I think that the experience was good, and we've prepared pretty well the last 6-7 weeks. These kids go out and practice, and they work hard, and we just got to be careful. Sometimes they don't work too hard and wear themselves out, but that's a nice problem to have.
Coach, you mentioned special teams, and I go back to when you won the state title. Mills field goal right before the half, right? Gives you that big lead in Columbus, and you guys go on and win the state championship. And I posted that video yesterday, Murphy to T. Roop, and I'm looking at it right now, 2,500 views, people reflecting back on that when Central won the state championship back there. But it all started with special teams in the state title game, didn't it?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that was big. And I think it just gave our kids so much confidence against Coldwater that night. Just in the locker room at halftime up 3-0. And Ken, you get what, like $1 a view from that?
Coach, I wish I got $1 a view. And you know what? If that were the case, I'd be shooting video at your games all the time because we get so many views from Crusader Nation out there.
That was probably just everybody at Harmon's and all the Roops that again. But yeah, you're right. But special teams are huge. The playoffs. And they're huge all year long, but I just know how it switches momentum, gives certain teams confidence, gives things that you want, and really we got that last night. That was big for us.
You mentioned Mogador. You played them last year in the playoffs, correct?
Yeah.
To refresh my memory, what was the outcome of that, and how might that help you, regardless of what the outcome was last year for this year's team?
Yeah, it was 21-14, and we did not play very well. We went up there and played. No excuses. They're a really good, well-coached football team. They have a tight end. They play him at fullback. They play him at receiver. He's going to OU. He's about 6'7", probably about 265 as a player. And And to be honest, I have not watched them much, but I told our kids in the locker room that, there was a lot of things that we learned from last year. But when the team sends you home for the winter, and as a coaching staff and sometimes some of these players, I don't know how many times I've watched that game. I don't know how many times when they send you home, sometimes you don't get the opportunity to come back and play that team ever again. And we have that opportunity. We met this morning, worked out this morning, and some of the kids reminded each other of those long winter workouts we had. And we did, and a lot of times let's do one more rep for Mogador. And they didn't, that's always kind of been in their mind a little bit because they sent them home. And, you send the seniors home, a lot of them never get a chance to play football again. And they know that. They know that's what's great about and what's tough about the playoffs. It's a one and done situation. And really good game. Jack Talkington did not, the big boy was sick that night.
Right.
Played about 3 quarters for us. Threw up on my shoes. During the game was not very good. And they were my favorite shoes at one time, but they left. They stayed at Mogador that night. But it was a good game. I think we jumped on them early, and then we kind of wore out a little bit. And some of our motivation in getting prepared and playing 4 quarters and finishing games, we mentioned that a little bit.
Billy, anything else for Coach before we let him go back to studying more film and figuring out a way to stop a huge tight end like that from Mogador?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my theme today, Coach.
All right. I've
been talking weather. What's your fit? What are you wearing when the temperature drops?
Well, I used to have a Zadrunas Agauskas hat, but I don't have that anymore. Kenny has it. No, you know what? I will throw sweatpants on if I need to, but I've got a couple of old jackets I throw on, but I try to keep it the same. Last night, not too cold, had the shorts on and just a little pullover and in a ball cap, and it was off and running. But it looks like the weather's going to be good this week. If it gets a little chilly, I think I bought my coaches some stocking caps they can throw on if they need to. But once the game gets going, Billy, I don't even know what the temperature is. It's off and running. So I wasn't cold last night. I got cold maybe when I walked up to the locker room from the stadium. That was about it. And I said, when did temperature drop? And those guys look at me. He goes, I got a couple of coaches that got really warm blood, so they're all bundled up. But for me, I try to stay as late as I can.
All right, so it's peanut butter and jelly before the game. So what did you celebrate with last night after the game? Oh,
always a little bit of Lindsay's Pizza.
There you go.
It's really big last night. And Carla made a little bit of some maple dip, bacon dip last night.
Ooh.
It was the talk of the crowd for sure. But, yep, it was nice. It was nice. It's always nice to try to get unwind a little bit. And sometimes you're still moving a lot. Your mind's still working a lot. And you try to get a couple hours of sleep if you can. But it's hard sometimes after games.
Coach, congratulations on the win. Best of luck this week against Mogador. And hopefully we're talking to you next Saturday about another victory and moving on in the playoffs.
I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. There he is, Trucker, Jeff Lindesmith. Outstanding head coach there for Central Catholic. Big win for them. And the reason I asked him about Mogador, I remembered it was a close game, but I forgot that Talkington was sick and only played 3 quarters in that game. So hopefully that bad taste, like he said, is still in their mouth, and they'll use that as extra motivation this week. But Central gets the win last night, 35-7, Billy, over Mineral Ridge. We were scheduled to have Coach Baum with us, but something fell through there. I don't know, maybe extra film study for their team next week. That's Westerville South. But Hoover, a winner last night, 38-7 over Lickin Heights. They fumbled 5 times. Maybe they were working on fumbling drills this morning, Billy, and that's why he couldn't join us, because they fumbled 5 times. They lost 3 of them and still won 38-7. Their defense was outstanding. Carson Derlin threw for 109, ran for 53 and 2 scores. They got Luke Roach back at running back last night, 23 carries. He must be okay. 158 yards and a touchdown. Jeremy Kish, perfect on extra points, 5 for 5. He also added a field goal, so special teams, we always talk about that. So a good win for Brian Baum over Lickin Heights, 38-7. And Hoover moves on. Road game at Westerville South next week.
Yep, good stuff from them there, and we talked about it on our show and in game. Sometimes, if a team's fumbling and throwing interceptions and playing loose and messing up, and they're still winning, I think sometimes that can tell you really how good they are. I think Massillon didn't play their best football last week against McKinley, and yet you never felt like they weren't going to win that game. So
Right.
that speaks to a lot of teams. Fumbles, lazy play, whatever it is with any team. if they're still winning, that should tell you, hey, when these guys get it together, when they turn it on, it's going to be real dangerous. That's how I felt for Lake, was just, once they get past out of these 2 quarters of weird play, they're going to look really good, and that's how it was. But how many coaches have we talked to today, Kenny, and they're just like saying their opponent for the next round, and their eyes widen just a little bit. Everybody knows who they're getting.
Trucker more so than any of the other guys, because they lost to the same opponent last year, right? Central,
crazy.
they want to go to Mogador and get that win, a chance to redeem themselves. Now, some other schools not getting that opportunity, Billy. Big Walnut beats Green 35-22. So Green, who led in that game 9-0, their season over. Robbie Klockner threw for 141 and 2 scores, but also 3 picks in that game. Alliance, also a leader at one point, 21-10 over Cheney. They lose 35-21. Brendan Zerbrugg started 10 for 10, 3 touchdowns in the first half, but couldn't maintain that. And so Alliance season comes to an end. Also, Steubenville beat Carrollton 33-13. Dawson Bryant 67-43 winner over Melbourne. So I think we've run through all the teams who won, who lost, that have ties or close ties surrounding Stark County. And so next week, Billy, we've got the games, scrolling on the bottom. And these are the matchups that are still left with teams in Stark County or, like I said, surrounding schools with Stark County. Jackson is at St. Ed's, McKinley at Mentor. Those are your D1 games. So both Federal League teams on the road next week. Division 2, Region 7, Massillon hosting Canal Winchester, Columbus DeSales at Lake. Those are the 1 and 2 seeds, Massillon and Lake. So they get a home game. Hoover's got to go on the road at Westerville South. Division 4, Region 13, Northwest. They're going to get another home game as they welcome Akron Bookduel, the 5-13 game there in D4 Region 13. Canton South, not as lucky. They go on the road, but they're still playing. That's all that matters. They're at Beaver Local. And Struthers is at West Branch. But note on West Branch, a winner last night, Billy, but Drew DeShields re-injured his right knee in that game. He only played, I think, in the first quarter, was 3 of 4, 2 touchdown passes. So they rested him, and he was hurt against Alliance and played through it. So that's something to keep an eye on with the number 1 seed West Branch, as they're now 10-1. They play next week against Struthers. Division 5, Region 17, Fairless moves on to take on Perry in Lake County. Fairless 9-2, Perry in Lake County 9-2. That's your D5 Region 17 game. And we just heard from Trucker Lindesmith, Division 6, Region 21, number 7 seed Canton Central Catholic at number 2 Mogador, 7-4 Central. Mogador undefeated on the year, Billy, 9-0.
A lot of great games there, and a lot of great games coming up. We're wishing all Stark County teams well, whether they're traveling, bringing somebody in. We know a couple teams are better than the draw that they have, so they're going to have to deal with that early. You look at Fairless; they take those 2 losses. Now they get the tough draw, and we got a surprise guest here.
There we go.
We're about to say goodbye, Coach, but I think we're going to fit you in.
All right, let me ask you, Coach, was it are you late joining us today because you were working on fumbling drills this morning? Even though you won 38-7, you put the ball on the turf a little bit too many times, I'm sure, for your liking last night.
Yeah, we fumbled more last night than we have all season put together, and that's something obviously we want to address. It's concentration. It's just staying fundamentally sound. We got to keep working on that. And we had a meeting just now that we were stressing some things like that. So I do apologize for running late.
That's all right. Hey, you got more important things to take care of, Coach. You're still playing, so that's all that matters. Congratulations on the win. Forget the fumbles now. Let's talk about it. 38-7, dominating defense by your squad last night. Carried it, through all those fumbles.
Yeah, defense really did a nice effort. They took the game plan, got after it. And you tie that in with the offense. They were moving the ball. We just put the ball on the turf too often there, and left points on the board. And you want to put teams away, especially in the playoffs. Every opportunity you give the other team is going to hurt you, and we got to make sure that we're better off in the second round here for that.
Coach, did you think that was situational, or do you think that was kind of the fact that it was such a big game? I mean, what do you think happened there?
No, I just things happen, and like I said, it was different people. Wasn't one person, and like I said, it's unusual circumstances for us because that's not something we usually do. And when I kept watching that, I talked to the running backs coach, obviously the OCs, like, hey guys, we got to make sure we're continuing to focus on handling the ball.
Yeah, Carson Derlin, though, comes through for you, Coach. Throws for a $109, 53 on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Comes up big for you, as did Luke Roach. Get him back. Must be nice getting your starting running back in time for the playoffs. A $158 on the ground and a touchdown. How important were those 2 guys last night to get that offense finally going?
Those guys are veteran guys. They have a lot of starts between them, a lot of yards between them. And, the offense that we run, it's important to have all those guys out there. And, Cooper Wessel did a heck of a job last week. And, he was put in a tough spot. He got some carries last night, played safety as well. So we appreciate that. But, getting Luke Roach back here and getting healthier all the way around, I think it helps our football team.
Coach, what happens next as far as your opponent? What are you guys looking at for your next game? And certainly, what is a tough region for you guys?
Yeah, I think Westerville South is a really good football team, very good athleticism. So we got to go out there. We got to play our football. We have to handle the trip well. That's one of the things also in that meeting. We have to get down there and make sure that we're ready to play as soon as we get off that bus. And earlier in the year, we took a longer trip. We didn't handle it well. We played well in the first half, but didn't finish the game. And we got to play 4 quarters of football. So those things we're addressing this week.
How important are learning experiences like that, though, at this time of the year, Coach? Yeah, you lost. Mansfield, I think, is what you're talking about, right? Yes. You make the trip down there to that stadium, and it's a unique situation, and you come away a loser, but you made the trip. So this isn't going to be as foreign to you guys. So how important is that mentally for these 16, 17, 18-year-old kids?
It's very important. They've done it before. Even if things don't go, at least you've done it before. Now you know what to build on. Now you know what to expect. And, I expect us to make a better showing.
Yeah, great stuff, Coach. We're wishing you well on your next game and keeping up with great play and representing Stark County and North Canton well.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, Coach. We appreciate you getting in after your meetings like that. See, priorities, man. He's got it right. We're not a priority for him. I get that. God bless him, man. Carry high and tight. Tuck the football. Keep it away from the focus. I love it. I love when a coach does that, man. He's doing a great job there. Federal League champs last year. How many guys did he lose this year defensively? He's playing sophomores everywhere on defense, and they come out in back-to-back games, put up 7 points defensively. That's it. That's all they allowed to Jackson and Licking Heights like that. So great job by Coach Baum getting his team ready defensively to pick up the offense, and that's what you need. Some nights your offense is going to carry the game. Some nights your defense is going to carry the game. And last night, the defense carried them till they got it going. Jeremy Kish, like I said, had 8 points himself on special teams, the kicker. So good job by them. And we wish them nothing but the best, like you said, to all of our teams that are still playing this. Let's get out of here. The Buckeyes are kicking off here in about 20 minutes against Penn State, Billy. I got to get me a beer, some pizza or something, sit down in front of the TV and watch the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions get after it.
Real quick, what's Kenny Rhoda being for Halloween?
Kenny Rhoda's being a couch potato for Halloween because the Browns are off tomorrow. The Buckeyes are playing today. I got Monday night duties at Jersey's on Fulton. So if you want to come watch the Browns and the Bengals somewhere Monday night, come join us at Jersey's on Fulton Road. Monday night, Stark County Browns backers will be eating. I won't be drinking, but they will. And we do raffles, 50-50 raffles, prizes, trivia, all kind of fun stuff. So that's my weekend. What about you? What do you got going on? You going as Ted Lasso?
Yeah, well, I wish. I'm going to go, what do you call it, Monday morning quarterback or whatever you call it, where you're breaking down the Browns. And
okay, all right.
I'm going to be breaking them down as they try and win. But stay tuned with WHBCsports.com and then all our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're going to be updating where we're going, where we have it, and then scores and more as those games happen Friday night. And join us next Saturday morning here on the Huddle.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. We're going, I think, to Northwest for radio. It's not 100% confirmed, but that's the target game since it's a home game for the Indians. So looking forward to that matchup, and that means we'll get fed well as well, Billy. So that's always good because they won. They're number one. They defended their title this year in the Food Fight Press Box Challenge. So congratulations to Coach DeMarco on the win and to the Boosters in Northwest for winning the title again.
No doubt. See you in the Huddle next week, Stark County.